Today's episode is about a topic that has been pretty taboo up until recently. Psychedelic drugs have been viewed in a pretty bad light by society for so long. But people are starting to get curious as to how these psychedelics like magic mushrooms and ayahuasca can heal when used properly. I've seen firsthand the healing powers of these drugs on shows on Netflix. The Goop Lab, for example, with Gwenyth Paltrow came out last year, and the very first episode features Goop employees traveling to a facility in Latin America where they drink mushrooms in tea form with trained facilitators. Even more recently, a new show on Netflix called Unwell has an episode dedicated to ayahuasca. You guys, we are entering an age where knowledge of the healing power of these mind-expanding drugs are becoming more accessible. As some people like to say, we are in the psychedelic renaissance. Before saying more, I want to make very clear that by no way is the information shared in this episode today medical advice. It is simply our guest's personal experience and story. That's what we do on this podcast. We share stories. And today's story is all about Sarah Elizabeth's healing experience with psychedelics. As always, you should consult a medical professional for advice. This episode is for informational purposes only. Through Sarah's psychedelic experience, there are amazing learnings. One of my favorites from Sarah's ayahuasca experience is that we all have a dark side, but that dark side should not be labeled as bad. Like everything else in nature, our soul needs to find balance between the light and dark, good and bad. Sarah explains how to accept the dark side of us with love and acceptance. Sarah also opened my eyes to how Mother Nature can be used as a healing tool. Sarah calls psychedelics plants of the spirit. This is a mind-expanding episode that, if you approach with an open mind, will leave you with a different perspective on another way our bodies can heal in addition to traditional medicine. You're listening to the Cultivating Curiosity podcast, where everyone has a story to share. This is the story of Sarah Elizabeth. Please state your name and what you do.
Well, my name is Sarah Elizabeth, and I am currently studying herbalism and psychedelic medicine. I currently just share tools and wisdoms and practices for mothers who stay at home, who happen to be empaths, creators, and entrepreneurs.
I love it. I love that. Sarah, where did you grow up? Please paint a picture for us of the town you grew up in, the neighborhood, your upbringing, that sort of thing.
All right. Well, I like to consider myself a nomad. I started off, I was born in Hollywood, Florida, and then I lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, up until I was about 12 or 13. During that period, it wasn't ideal. I grew up in a very traumatic household, a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of physical abuse. It was just not, it wasn't the perfect picture. Then my parents divorced, and then we moved to Chattanooga, and we were there for about 5 years. My mom remarried, and we moved to Tryon, Georgia, which is like in the middle of nowhere.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and that picture looked like just, growing into myself. I was a teenager. However, I was a teenager that had a lot of trauma. And I didn't know didn't know nothing. I didn't know anything then like I do now. But just going back and looking, it was great, but it wasn't the best. And then I married my husband in 2010, and we're a military family, so we move all over the place. And we started off in North Carolina. That was great, which I started my fitness journey. I became a fitness instructor, personal development junkie. That was great. And then in Germany, we moved to Germany for 4 years, and that's where my spiritual awakening started. And this past year, we lived in Florida when my husband went to do a tour. And right now, we are in Washington State. And the picture right now is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. My life is amazing.
That's so great. You seem very happy and very content with your life.
Thank you. Thank you.
I need to know, how did you and your hubby meet?
This is a good question. In prison. We met in prison.
Really?
Yeah. Luckily, neither one of us was behind bars. But we were both correctional officers.
Okay.
And I was there 2 years. And then he came in, and we worked together one night, and
just clicked.
It just clicked. It was really good.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing those types of stories. Like, everyone is so different.
Yeah. It's I one day I'm gonna elaborate, because people are like, "Oh my gosh, in prison." I'm like, "Yeah, girl, I was a thug, girl."
It's like, yes, sister.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So really quick, Sarah, before we jump into the questions, more about you as a younger adult. Describe yourself for me as a child and a little girl growing up. What were your dreams for your life? How would other people describe you?
Wow. I'm usually the one asking these questions, so
I know it's so weird when you're on the other side.
Right, you're like, oh man. So I just remember growing up knowing that the environment around me wasn't the right environment, you know? I just remember being this little girl that was sick of everybody's stuff. And from that place, it grew a lot of inner strength. Okay, so I always had this fire inside of me. And I always knew that there was something bigger than myself, because I remember talking to God for the very first time. And that time, I remember sitting down as a little girl and thinking, or just being. I wasn't thinking, I was just being. I think at the time I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like how bad can this get? I think I'm like 11 years old at this time, and it hadn't ate anything all day, and my parents are screaming, and I'm living in this like 1-by-1 bedroom with 7 other people, which is my brothers and sisters. And I remember hearing this man's voice, and he said, "What is it that you want for your life?" And I said, "I want a man that will treat me very well and worship the ground that I walk on. I want a house. I want a family to love on and for them to love on me. I want a picket fence. I want to go places. I want to do things." And he said, okay. And then I just remember coming out of this vortex and, didn't know nothing, didn't know anything about God. And I just was just going through life. Inside, I was lost in the head. I was battered, abused, used. And then that came into my teenage years as codependency, wanting to be liked. I made some horrible choices. I was sleeping around, doing drugs, just like all over the place. But other people couldn't see that. They saw this beautiful girl winning pageants, trying, to pull her life together. That's what they saw. But behind those doors, I was living a really destructive lifestyle, even into my adulthood. I was in and out of mental hospitals, smoking, drinking, beating people up. I don't even know why. Like, I wouldn't, looking back, I'm like, wow. And then I got married. Well, no, let's back up a little bit. I had this another talk with God. And, you know, between all of this, like divine intervention has been happening. But, you know, I don't know anything. I just learned about God when I turned 21 years old, you know, and I tried that trip and whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then I veered off to, you know, drugs and addiction and stuff. But I remember this one particular night when I laid down, I was going to sleep, and I was drinking, I was doing drugs, unfortunately, and I just broke down crying. I was just like in the darkness of my room in my house, living alone, and I was just like, I am so tired of living like this, man. I'm just tired living the paycheck to paycheck. I'm tired of beating myself up. I'm tired of feeling suicidal. I'm tired of being depressed. Like, I'm just so done with everything. Is there anybody out there that can help me? And I heard that man's voice again. And he was like, what is it that you want? And I said, well, I need a man. Not that I need a man, you know, I just needed, man, I feel like I grew up in the hood all by myself, you know, with violence and just anger. I just needed somebody to take me in. And I said, I need a man and I need a family that will love me. And went to bed, and 2 weeks later, someone called me from DSS, and they're like, hey, we have a child that needs a placement. And it's my nephew. And I'm like, okay, Jesus. All right. And I'm like, okay, so I need a man because, you know, I'm in a better position. You know, I just made up, you know how you make stories around your negative habits or addictions. Well, I know they're doing it, but I mean, I'm doing it too, but at least I got my bills paid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, now I need a man. And like, sure enough, 2 weeks later, my husband came into my life. We went on one date, and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm getting a kid. I don't know if you ever want to do this. And he was like, yeah, I want to do this. And then we got married, you know, and things just started going. And, you know, that story sounds beautiful, but I was still in that dark place. You know, I was still fighting, still resisting. And luckily, my husband was like, I'm not letting go because this is it. This is it. And that's when I got into exercise, dieting, and personal development in 2011. Yeah, it was 2011. And that was the beginning, the catalyst of my healing. Didn't know it then, but I think at that time, I was using the personal development and the exercise to suppress. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, you know, I was great. I was wonderful until I got pregnant. And it was like shaking a Coke bottle for 5 years and then finally just exploding, and I exploded.
What happened?
So I got pregnant with my daughter, and you know, back then I was on top of my game. I became a master trainer. I was leading classes. You know, I was doing very well in my fitness business, but I knew in the background that something wasn't right because I was attracting certain people that mirrored me, would start something, wouldn't finish, or had really low self-esteem, you know. And yeah, I'm battling those things, but I'm doing okay. I'm okay. And I got pregnant, and before I knew I was pregnant, just something was not right, Sabrina. Like, I was angry. I was so angry and so upset.
That you were pregnant?
No, just this is before I found out I was pregnant.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And then when I found out I was pregnant, it just amplified it even more. So for the first 9 months of my pregnancy, it was really hard for me. I mean, I was an emotional nutcase for 9 months. You didn't know what you were going to get the next day. And a lot of that anger was because I built something from the ground up and I had to give it away. which is normal with the being a military spouse. So I was dealing with that. I achieved this dream that modeled, or I based my self-worth around. And when I finally got it, my self-worth was up there on the hot tutus, you know what I'm saying? And then I gave birth to my daughter, and I was diagnosed with milk injection dysphoria. And so what that means is when your milk comes in, you're supposed to receive this drug that makes you feel really good. Oh my gosh, I'm feeding my baby. It's a happy drug. I got the complete opposite. So it was, I was like Mr. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Like, it was just like taking this mask off. And I'm very grateful for that moment, because, you know, you hear about these things on social media or on the news of how these mothers killing their kids. And I'm not justifying their actions, but this stuff is real. Like, something got me. A chemical was not working or didn't drop right or something, and it turns you into a completely different person. So imagine what that mother was going to. Like, deep down, she knows that this is wrong, but there's something in your body that just takes over. Think about, you know, animals, dogs killing their pups, you know, just out of nowhere, you know. And so even though it was really hard for me, I'm very grateful, because it helped me find empathy and stories like that, you know, because we're all quick to judge, but we don't know what that mother is going through. And being a mother is no, you know,
walk in the park.
Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy. Like, you are struggling with a smile on your face every single day.
How many kids do you have today?
3. I have 3.
You're a busy mama.
Yes. So after that, then I got postpartum depression, and I hit my knees again. I remember laying back in my bed, and our baby, my daughter, is laying between my husband and I, and I'm just crying, and I'm like, I can no longer live like this. And I believe for sure at that time I was going to attempt to take my life. Like, I was done.
Wow.
And I will never forget seeing this light from my closet, because I was going to go in my closet, you know, whatever. And I just saw this light, and this light said, "You're not ready yet. You're a teacher. You need to be a teacher." And I'm like, oh my gosh, God, you want me to be look at me. I cannot teach anybody anything. You're crazy. And he was just like, no, you are a teacher. You're going to teach my word, and you're going to teach other women how to heal. And I'm like, okay. And it just brought this peace over me. I just had this peace.
Did you hear words, or was it more of just a feeling that you knew you understood?
I got it all. Like, I just heard this voice, like this man's voice, like, you're a teacher, you're going to help women, you're going to do this. And then with the light, and then it just came with this feeling. It took every thought of suicide from my body. Like, it was like a reset. All right, let's do this again.
Wow.
So at that point, I'm like, okay, cool, you know. And so I went to go get help. I went to go see a therapist. I got placed on medication, and I just held on to that moment. I just held on to that moment, and I was just like,
that moment got you through.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's been radical since.
I mean, let's talk about that. That's a great way to start. Thank you so much Sarah, for
Yeah,
sharing your story. I know it's very, really hard to relive something like that, but I think it's so
yeah.
important to show that part of the story instead
Mm-hmm.
of just showing the amazing part of your life that you're at now.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Mm-hmm.
powerful to show people this is where I've come from. This is what
Mm-hmm.
I've built for myself. You can too.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
I am so excited to talk about this topic today,
Mm.
psychedelics. And we're
Yes.
specifically going to talk about two,
Mm-hmm.
ayahuasca and magic mushrooms.
Yes.
So, why don't you start off with explaining to us what is ayahuasca, where does it come from, and how is it taken? Actually, hold on one second. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
edit all of this through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're good. You're good.
But I think I'm actually going to talk about that myself in one of my narrations.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
let
yeah.
me start
Oh,
off.
that'll be great.
Yeah, because I've already been like researching this stuff, super
Okay.
interested.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to do that myself. But I
Okay,
want
yeah,
to
that's
start
great.
off this next part with a quote that I found when I was doing my
Ooh.
researching.
Okay, okay.
And then I want to know how this quote applies to your own experience with ayahuasca.
Mm.
So the quote is, quote, "The drinker is able to uncover and take personal responsibility for issues that had been hidden in their unconscious, which is often the cause of the disease or emotional slash
Mm.
psycho-spiritual imbalance."
Mm.
There is so much of that going around, right? Like disease,
Mm.
imbalances, and
Mm-hmm.
ayahuasca can help with that. How did it help your life in those ways?
So the very first time I sat with Mother, to me, she's a plant spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, it's like sitting with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
So I refer to her as Mother Ayahuasca or Mother Aya. So the very first time I sat with Mother, my intention was I want to know what it's like to be egoless. And that was the final answer when I finally get there, because between then and 30 days, you're like preparing, psyching, my intention's gonna be like this. No, like this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and when I drank her, I just remember sitting there and just feeling agony, so much agony. Like, it's like being bitten by a whole bunch of mosquitoes, but less painless, but really just aggravating. And I remember laying there. Now, it had to be like 3 hours. I mean, I'm tossing and turning. And the shaman, bless her heart, she's just sitting there smiling. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and she comes up to me. She's like, you're resisting. And I'm like, what? What am I resisting here? And, oh man, once she came to me. Well, no, I take that back, because when I sat with Mother the first time, Aya came to me as a man.
Hmm.
Okay, and thinking back at it and like hearing the voices in my head, I really can't tell you if it was a man or a woman in that time. It just sounded like two voices into one, so it
Mm-hmm.
could be gender neutral, I guess. And the medicine said, do you feel that? And I'm like, yes, I feel that. Like, what is this? And she told me, this is you not surrendering. This is you not letting go. This is all the pain that you are causing yourself. And you think you're doing a good job, but you're not really doing a good job because you know too much. And when you know too much, you can't let us help you. And I'm like, mind
Mm-hmm.
blown. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, and so when you first receive that revelation, you go through your life of where you're doing those things at. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my marriage came up, my business came up, like all of these things came up where I'm surrendering. No, no.
Mm-hmm. Like you think you're surrendering conceptually.
No.
You're like, oh, I'm doing XYZ. That
Yes.
means I'm surrendering, but it's more of a feeling.
Yes, it's a feeling, and it's totally a feeling. Like, you know, let's say, for example, you have to sell 5 cars a month,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And you have to reach, you sold 4, you got to get that one more, and you're just like trying to get that one last car. You're like, oh, you know, just all over the place. And that's what I was doing. Instead of just taking a deep breath and just allowing creative energy to come through me and just trust that spirit has my back and, you know, letting go. So once I had that revelation, I purged, okay? Because with Mother Ayahuasca, you purge old energies out. And when I purged, I mean, I did a bucket and a half. I mean, it was just trauma. Like, it was just a lot. And I remember
What did the
feeling,
purging look like for you? Like, did you have conversations with certain people?
no, because you don't want to look at it. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to talk to it because it will talk to you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just getting it all up. And I remember it was a lot. It was a lot. And I think I remember like some yellow, like I could see it, like some yellow coming up. And I was just like, oh.
This was all still during your session,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, my first session, very first session. And then I just remember like after purging and I remember taking more medicine because the more that you take, the deeper that you go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little, what's the right word to use? Sketchy.
What?
yeah, I'm sketchy already. You know, like my husband doesn't know where I'm at. You know, I'm drinking. I don't know these people. You know.
Yeah. Aren't you in a different country, right? Like you're based in
okay.
Germany, your family's in Germany, but then you're in
Yes.
Amsterdam.
I drove 6 hours to Amsterdam, and long story short, I mean, the session was the most divine. It was exactly what I needed. I talked to God face to face and asked all these questions. I asked questions about my marriage, and like I came with everything that I needed to come with, so I can leave there ready to execute.
Mm-hmm.
And I have lower lumbar discomfort. And I just remember just wrestling and all of this stuff. And the shaman came up to me, based in Amsterdam, by the way. And she just did her energy work and just, man, I mean, she was on top of her game. You hear me? Come to find out, that was her very first session that she led.
Wow.
And you could not tell, girl, like, it just gives me chills and cries because we are, whether it's with medicine work, which medicine work is a completely different ball game, but when you feel called to do something, you feel the urge to do it, like, just do it and do it to the best of your ability, how spirit is guiding you.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're listening to that voice and you have the purest intentions, you're good. And that's exactly what she did, man. I was like, bruh.
So really, I just want to because I've never done psychedelics before, so I really don't know. I think maybe it's even something that is so hard to even put into words, but I'm going to try. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The purging process is you just like, it was like, was it a feeling of like relief essentially?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was carrying a lot of stuff in my sacral, and I already knew that beforehand. And so there's different ways to purge, by the way. There's purging by crying, screaming, yawning, bowel movement, a lot of urination, and throwing up. So you can purge in different ways. And a lot of people, I remember saying, oh, I don't want to throw up. I don't want to throw up. Like, oh,
that would be my thing, too. I'm like,
yes.
I do not want to throw up.
Yeah. But once it came up and you're just like, oh, man.
Oh, so when you said bucket and a half,
great.
Did you mean like of actual throw up?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I thought you meant like
it up. And
Girl.
she gave me another bucket, and I was just like, ugh. It was great. And then once it's over, you're just like, you feel so much lighter
I'm sure,
because, we're
yeah.
energetic bodies. We're carrying so much energy. And I think I learned a lot about energy. That was my very first session. Man, it cracked me wide open. With the woman that was running the space and, the plant medicine itself. So yeah, I came home and I applied what I learned. And man, it was great. It was great. Like, I was manifesting. My Kundalini energy was, doing its thing. My marriage was healing because I went, to mother, about my marriage.
And you got perspectives that, because I feel like so much of our life is within this little box of beliefs and thoughts and concepts.
Yes.
And there's so much in the background in the subconscious that we can't access.
Yes.
Where taking a psychedelic like ayahuasca, for example, can open you up and essentially surrender you to the universe. Like you said, ayahuasca is one of the best ways to access the universe. And so now that you have all these different perspectives and learnings that you wouldn't have gotten living in this narrowed little perspective that we all live in every day, you're able to apply, like you said, those learnings to your everyday life.
Yeah. And I think everything is a feeling. So I'm an empath. Okay. So, and that was really brought to my attention in that first session. Like, here I am, I'm trying to see what everybody else is seeing. I'm trying to hear what everybody else is seeing, and I'm just not getting anywhere. And I remember God telling me, he's like, that's not your gift. Your gift is feeling. And so we're going to teach you how to discern your feelings, how to heal your feelings, and what you should be feeling. And once I got the correct idea of what I should be feeling, like, one of the biggest lessons was always choose love over fear. This is what love feels like, which is egoless. It's just, in a sense, it's not giving a care of what's going on, but I guess it's just like really intentional. And there's no expectations, there's no attachments of what you're going to give to me. Okay? And then they brought me to the other side, which was like the first 3 hours, was fear. How am I going to do this? Why can I do that? Well, how come she has this? And why don't I have that? Why am I, like, just creating all of that energetic resistance in myself? And so that was something that I've always carried with me and still use to this day. Am I 100% perfect? No. But I know when I start to feel tense, I'm like, all right, I'm very much aware, like, this is not cool, what I'm saying? So I'm able to back up. So
and then serve from a place of love and openness.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah,
I want to briefly touch on your second ayahuasca experience, because you said the first one was light, positivity, all these awesome learnings, and you got to experience God and just awesomeness. And then your second time, I'm sure you were surprised, was the complete opposite. It was very dark, very scary. Please briefly walk me through what that was like, and then I want to talk about the balance of the two.
All right. So I sat with Mother in 2017 of May. And the way the medicine works, the way that Mother Ayahuasca works, really with any plant medicine, it calls you. It finds its way in your energetic field and just speaks to you. And you're like, okay. Well, for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be called. You can't go into this being curious, like, okay, I'm just going to take a day trip, No. I made a promise to myself at the end of November of 2019 or 2018 that I was going to go for another session. And Mother clearly told me, no, you won't. You will go when I tell you to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, cool. So I'm still doing my work, whatever. And I was friends with this group of people, and it was a very learning experience for me, because we're all woke and we're all healers and we're all on a mission and we're all gonna love each other, but in behind the scenes we're triggering the shit out of each other. Yeah. That's my perspective anyway. And we were all going to go do ayahuasca together. And at first, I kind of didn't feel 100% about it, but I'm going to do it for them because we're in this pact, it kind of felt that way. And I want to say a week out, like 4 days out, it's amazing because the medicine, when you commit to the medicine already starts working, right? And I'm just noticing these things coming up. And I guess it goes back to that saying that I know too much, and since I know too much, I'm going to try to protect myself from some of these things. Mm-hmm. All right. And by that protection, it felt 100% right. I ignored those things anyway. Mm-hmm. And I went, we were going 4 days into it, and Mother told me, she said, if you go, you are going to suffer the consequences. I'm telling you, you're on the right track. Do not do it. And it wasn't really Mother Ayahuasca. It was like my higher self. Mm-hmm. Okay. At that point, I felt, because you could tell, for me, I could tell the difference. So I speak my, thank you. I remember 3 days out, I spoke my truth. Guys, I'm not going. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do this. All right. Then I felt bad for homegirl.
Yep. Miss People Pleaser coming out.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. Because when I did it the first time, this girl went with me. Okay.
So now you felt like you obligated it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's kind of like those things. Yeah, I'll do it. And then you sit back for a minute and you're like, you know what I'm saying? So we get into the session, and I'm already coming in with a whole lot of stuff that I'm not okay about, but it's my own stuff that these other people are bringing out of me, right? And I just remember laying on that mat for 8 hours and experiencing the most depths of darkness that I have ever experienced. Like, I'm thinking, I don't even know if I'm thinking it. I don't know what's going on, but I just remember, this voice tell me that, they're going to get my kids. And then, I'm worried about Susie Q over here. Like, she's stealing my energy. It's just, it was really...
Like all your biggest fears coming to the surface.
Man, I mean, just right here. And it was just not, I mean, I didn't know what the heck was going on, man. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say in the beginning, I remember, all of my work being honored and celebrated. So that was great. But after that, the last 6 hours was not okay. And so the ceremony ended. I want to say it's like 8 o'clock at this time. And I'm still in the medicine. I'm still battling. I threw up like just a little bit. And I think it was because I was holding on for too much. Like, you know, I was around these people and I didn't really want to show my true self, if that makes sense. And I remember this voice saying, I'm going to stay with you for a little while. And it stayed with me for a little while. I came home. It was nothing like my husband knew something was different. My kids knew something was different. I knew something was different. Like, it felt like my energy was sucked from my body. My soul was sucked from me. And so now I'm sitting there, and most importantly, I have nobody to blame but myself, because I got the message, but I didn't listen. And so I have nobody to blame. So I need to take responsibility, and I need to figure this out. And that's when I realized I have really weak boundaries. I am a people pleaser. And when we tell you not to do something, you need to listen.
Yep. Don't let that ego come into the picture.
Yeah. And so I just remember, you know, it took me like 6 months to like get myself back together. And that's when I had a shift in my hormones. And I don't think that my PMDD is associated with that situation at all. I have PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoria. Forget what the other D is for, but it's your PMS on steroids. You can't get out of bed. I'm in PMDD moment right now. It started earlier, so I've been in bed all day, you know, just like trying to pull my life together. But it's a really serious dis-ease, in my opinion. I mean, it takes you out for the count. But what was the point that I was trying to make with this?
You weren't in PMDD at the moment.
No, I wasn't.
When you were going through the dark phase.
No. So I think when I was going through that dark phase, you know, I was still in that darkness, but I'm trying to find the light at that point. You know, I'm just trying to transmute all of this Reiki, journaling, boundaries, reading, I'm trying to get out of the water.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get the picture, but, you know, things were starting to shift, but whatever. I didn't feel like the first session, you know. I need some love. Well, I have PMDD now, and I feel like with PMDD really taught me about the dark side. And I think it kind of correlates with that too, because we're always, yes, there's nothing wrong with seeking the light in other people. And this is the part that I kind of have trouble with, and maybe I will sit with Mother and talk to her about it. But where is the balance between protecting myself and seeking the light in you? Because I sought the light in you, and I got burned, you know? So I was just like trying to, you know, navigate through all of that. But with PMDD, I think it just brought up all of my shadow work in conjunction. I think because I didn't know what I know now with that second session, that all the dark, the shadows was coming up, and in a way I was smothering them down. And then my body was like, oh, or spirit of my body was like, oh no, we're gonna get you. And then shadow work, and then it's just like, whoa.
So really quick, Sarah, explain to me what shadow work is, and also explain to me how you essentially embraced the darkness, because on our quick call that we had a few days ago, you said, I have a lot of fun in the darkness.
Yeah, and now I do.
Yeah, because you learned, and I love that, because I am learning that the dark isn't bad and the light isn't good. And this is coming from someone, myself, who 100% of the time always used to search for light and used to search for happiness. And I was suppressing the darker sides of me, like my sad days, my angry days, whatever.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
you have to have both in order to be
Yes.
in balance. Your body, nature is always seeking out balance and
Yes.
homeostasis. And you
Yes.
cannot know light without dark. And I think that's why it's so important that you had that second ayahuasca session where you
Yeah.
felt the darkness. And I want to know how you came out on the other side of that darkness, what you learned through it, because it was so necessary to have that experience.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, give me a second here.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow work. Shadow work is getting into your subconscious mind and analyzing all the things that you really think about, but it comes across as negative, so you
Mm-hmm.
shove it back.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that came up a lot for me was the way that I treated my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I would like do things unconsciously
Mm-hmm.
to trigger him,
Mm-hmm.
not really knowing why I did that. But when I sat down in meditation and analyzed the whole situation, I treated him like that because, uh, one, I didn't know any better. I didn't have the best marriage couple in my life, so they would stab at each other all the time. Two, I learned a thing called ancestral karma. So all of these things that I knew consciously that were wrong, they were, coming after me. It was coming towards me, and through the way that I treated people. I realize I am judgy. I am sometimes jealous. I am sometimes all of these things that the world deems as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I had to learn how to not detach, but I guess be a witness to that
And
and
accept it.
accept it and feel that. It doesn't feel really good. It's just like, man, it just feels like you're a really mean person.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've learned is when you sit with those feelings, those negative feelings, and just love on them and nurture them and lovingly, constructively transition them into positivity, man, it's just like this
Mm-hmm.
wholeness inside of you. Um, and so, especially with my PMDD, I'm always in the dark side. I'm always in this realm where it's not really nice, but I've learned how to navigate through them. It's just like going through a vortex and slaying dragons, but not in a way with a knife, but with like an armor of love, of taking those pieces and loving them,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's from my grandmother, from myself, from a past life, from whatever, wherever. All of these things come to you to get your intention, negative or positive, for you to send love to them. Because when you send love to them, then you begin to integrate those pieces, those fragments, to become whole.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I told you, I love being in the darkness. I love being in the darkness. And I think with my third session with ayahuasca, um, she really taught me that. She really taught me to go in that subconscious mind. What are we going to do, Sarah? Are you going to fight or are you going to surrender? I'm going to surrender. All right, you're surrendering. What are you going to do next? I'm going to give love. It takes me like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But once I say love, then it's just like this pure piece of my muscle is being attached back to me. You know, I'm getting pieces that I lost that everyone else deemed was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not bad. It's just human experience.
Isn't that funny? Like, it's society really ingrains in us this mindset and these boxes and these limiting beliefs that really dictate how we view the world. And in a way,
Yes.
it's so limiting and so sad. And that's why one of my biggest missions, as I'm learning how to journey through that and become more open to quote unquote the bad stuff and the bad emotions, I want to spread the message and make other people open to that perspective as well. I mean,
Carl Jung is the best person to do research on the shadow self.
okay.
I believe he's the one that coined it.
I'm gonna write
And
this down.
he just has, he's written books. I'm reading a book now, or what is at that time, and I can't remember what it's called. But he just says so many things that make so many sense. And there's so many quotes that he says. I wish I can bring one up to share with you to piece this together. But I feel like all I have to give is my experience, you know, so.
Which is beautiful and great.
Yeah. So since Amsterdam, those 2 sessions, I came to Florida to find healing in my womb with PMDD. And I've done 8 or 9 sessions. It was great. I've done 8 or 9 sessions. And
of shadow work?
No, of
Ayahuasca. Okay.
Yeah, I did 8 sessions of ayahuasca. And so with her, she's really teaching me self-love. You know, I still have not mastered that yet. I mean, I just came to realization, nope, I still ain't got it. But I'm learning, still learning. But what was my point? I used to sit here and quote and share and recommend this particular book, which, you know, the forefront books that really radically changed my mind. Of course, I remember those, but I think Mother Ayahuasca is like, well, all you have to give is your experience, you know, and if they want to learn more, it will come up to them, you know, or it will come up in conversation, whatever. So, but I just want to say to you and your audience, if you really want to get into the understanding of shadow work, Carl Jung is the perfect place to start.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Magic mushrooms. Let's dive into that. We really touched on ayahuasca. Magic mushrooms is something else that has been, I feel like, in the news and media a lot lately for its healing powers. And I believe, and I'll have to double check, the Goop Lab on Netflix. It's a show with Gwenyth Paltrow. I believe the first episode, they talk about psychedelics, and I'm pretty sure it's magic mushrooms specifically. So why did you start taking magic mushrooms in the first place, and what was the result that you experienced?
Yes. So, I moved to Florida, and, my husband was deployed, and, I noticed my hormones were shifting. I think I already mentioned that. But when he left, I think he was like my nurturing Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And when he left and when I moved into my apartment, I was starting to have really bad thoughts. I was starting to have really bad body pains. I couldn't get out of bed. I was yelling all the time, like just a whole bunch of unnormal things. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I know this is not depression. I've dealt with depression. In my opinion, I think depression is a beautiful thing. It is a message from our higher selves. Strongly believe that. And there's so much on that I could say, but anyway. So I knew it was a depression. So now I'm like, okay, is this an entity? Because I'm just that person, I'm very connected to the spiritual realm. So I'm just analyzing everything. That could be it, but that I didn't realize that from like months from now. I was diagnosed with PMDD, and they gave me medication. There's no cure for it. All they know is the body, the chemicals in your uterus, when they produce, your body is so sensitive to it that it's fighting those chemicals off. All right. So I'm like, okay, cool. I got placed on medication because medication was the bridge to my healing first go around. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this and see how it works. And I just remember like taking the medication and being in this glass box, not being able to stretch or move or anything. And I'm like, I cannot live like this. Mm-hmm. So I started on this like holistic journey, and I realized that the physical aspect is just as important as the spiritual aspect. So, I'm getting colonics, I'm changing my diet, I'm praying, I'm infusing, getting copper, blah, 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 all of this stuff. And I was starting to notice a difference, but I was not 100%, And I went to I went to my hometown, hosted a workshop, and I was in my PMDD, and I was struggling to take care of these people. They're like, oh, this is great. And I'm like,
on the inside, you're like, I'm breaking down here.
Yeah. So on the way home, I'm driving, and I'm just like, I can't live like this anymore. Like, something has to change. And I got this thought, and they said, you need to do psilocybin. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what's psilocybin? And it's like magic mushrooms. And I'm like, what? Now, you told me not to do this before, because I asked if I could do this. Like, what makes it different now? And they're like, don't worry about all that. Just, you need to do magic mushrooms. You need to microdose. And this is how you microdose. And microdosing is taking a small half of a cap of psilocybin mushrooms, and this is going to help. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I get home and I start Googling, and sure enough, all of that information was on Google, and that there was women also doing magic mushrooms for PMDD, for depression, anxiety, and all of those things. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I called somebody, and like within 24 hours, I had a bag of magic mushrooms. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I just want to stop right here and say that this is my experience, and I'm not saying that you need to go out and go buy you a bag of magic mushrooms and go do them. That's not what I'm saying. And secondly, the information that I'm sharing is just for informational purposes, mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm just sharing. I didn't ask to do this work. The work came to me, so here we are. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I felt confident because I've done ayahuasca twice, and I knew it was a psychedelic, so I trusted myself that, okay, if things get a little crazy, I can pull myself out. I'll be fine. Okay. Mm-hmm. I remember taking the microdose and going to bed after setting my intentions over the medicine. And at the time, I was doing subconscious work to heal. And all of the subconscious work was stuck in the back of my head.
What was an example of the subconscious work? What does that mean?
So I did meditation. So I would do meditations at night that would clear out the subconscious mind and plant new seeds. So I am abundant. I am healthy. And I would listen to that all night long. And it makes a difference. It really, really, really does. Mm-hmm. Like your attitude changes. But I just felt like it was all stuck in the back of my mind. And when I took that microdose, it all flew to all of the, like, I just felt all of these connections, neural pathways, everything
It
in my
clicked.
brain, it clicked, like just moving back all the way to the front, in the front eye. And then I just felt this rush of energy. It was a very healing energy moving through my body. Just, it was amazing, amazing. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I go to sleep, which I'm going to sleep, but you feel this stuff. I didn't have any hallucinations. I didn't have any weird dreams. You know, I didn't feel any different. For me, I look at it as taking NyQuil every night. You know what I'm saying? Woke up 5 o'clock the next morning, like I have not done in the past 7-8 months. I was able to commit to a workout program. I was able to take care of my kids, be present with my kids, cook them lunch, dinner, drop them off. I love you. I realized I have not done that like in 8 months because I've been suffering. I was more creative. I was more calm. You know how things come up to you like, oh man, I'm the problem, and you kind of feel bad and all those things. Well, I was detached to them in a way that I was lovingly looking at myself differently. I was able to heal things like my I call them daddy issues. You know, I was just able to move forward with my life. And then I did that for about 3.5 months. So I took it on Mondays and Thursdays, because you want to take it one night, let 2 nights pass, and then take another one and let 2 nights pass, or 3 nights. It just depends on what your intention is. And I did it for 3.5 months. It changed my life. And then the medicine told me she was done with me. She said, I'm done.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, is there a purging process that goes with that?
If it is, it's like crying, you know, and just, it's hyper awareness, you know. And I guess it's just a release of energy. But if you are committed to like a spiritual practice like yoga, meditation, reading, journaling, like that, it helps you purge in that form too, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it gave you the space to really heal yourself. Because I can see why it would be so hard to heal yourself when you're just in fight or flight and you're just trying to survive. And it really just gave you the space to do that.
Yes, absolutely. You put it perfectly, because it just gave me some breathing room, because I've been fighting for my life here. And it was just like this nice little break. And then it was like, okay, we're done. And I haven't microdosed in a long time. And basically because I've been working with Mother more, because I feel like if anybody's going to get to the root, she will.
Mother Ayahuasca.
Yeah. Mother Ayahuasca will totally get to the root. And
now that really isn't in America yet, correct? It's actually predominantly in South America?
It is predominantly in South America. However, and this is the download that I received, because I was called to administer the medicine. Not administer the medicine, to learn about her. Okay. She's like, yeah, you're going to be healing, but I need you to work for me too. So I need you to learn about me, how to just basically work with her. Right. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm never going to do that, because, you know, you're making the medicine and you have to test the medicine, and that's not fun. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's not like you're drinking cherry Kool-Aid. You're drinking mud. Okay. And then you have to deal with whatever comes up, right? So I'm like, no, no, no. But by the fourth session, she told me, she was like, yes, I'm in South America. I am in these places, but I am making my way over, and I'm making it through people like you to administer me so we can continue healing this planet. Okay? There's people out there that really need this medicine, and I need people out there that really have the highest respect, integrity, and love for me so I can continue to do my work. And so she has made her way over here. All you have to do is go to retreatguru.com. All you have to do is go on Google, type it in, and you'll find somebody. However, you need to feel called, and you need to ask some questions. I call her my medicine mama in Florida. She's taught me so much, and she's been to Peru several times, and she administers medicine. And that one right there, she brings the jungle. So it was a completely different atmosphere. I mean, deeper, wider. Whoa. And she would tell me, if you're going to go sit with somebody else, you need to ask if they ever done a dieta. And dieta means that you only drink this particular plant for so many months. And you need to ask them what their intention, what their story is. And I think that second question is more from my heart space. You really need to connect to these people because, yeah, anybody can give you ayahuasca. Anybody can give you mushrooms. Anybody can give you LSD. You want it, they will give it to you. But you have to make sure that their heart is in the right place, because that will make or break the situation or the experience. Now, don't get me wrong, whatever experience you get, that's what you're supposed to get. I didn't want to, resurrect 15 times, but it was what I needed. So whatever you get, that's what, she has in store for you. But you just really got to be prayerful, intentional, and ask questions.
I think that's so important, kind of transitioning into the latter part of this interview. I really wanted to talk about the taboo that surrounds this, because a lot of people view all psychedelics, here we go again, limiting, putting everything in boxes. Society views it as bad. Which I understand, right? We grow up with this campaign in school, don't do drugs. We see these horror stories about what drugs can do to you. And I absolutely understand. And you have firsthand experience as well of the addiction that comes, of the horrible side effects that come with taking drugs. But I love your story because you're showing a different side of, okay, if you approach specific certain drugs this way with this intention of healing yourself, it can have profound effects in your life. And I'm so happy that we're just opening up the perspective. We're not here saying, okay, take magic mushrooms to cure your depression or to cure whatever. We're not here saying that at all. We're just trying to open up and give people a different perspective with your story.
Absolutely. So here's the deal. Mother Earth is here to support us. Right outside your window, there's probably trees, shrubbery, some roses, some weeds. All of those things have different properties, and all of those things have different intentions to support you. Okay? Some with DMT, which is the powerhouse behind psychedelics, and some of them without DMT, which is your herbs, your cacao. Cacao is a sacred chocolate. Beautiful heart opener. But there's no DMT, but you're like woke after, So those are some of the different examples. I was just reading something before I got on here, and it makes so much sense. And I think for me personally, I'm gonna steer away from psychedelics, because psychedelics, yeah, it sounds cool, but it kind of has that negative connotation behind it. The new word is uh, ethergens, ethergens, and ethergens are plants of the spirit. And when they're taken with intention of healing, of enlightenment, of connection, of deepening, it can really take you to a place inside of yourself that you never imagined that was possible. That is possible. We just forgotten about it. And Mother Earth puts plants on this planet to heal us. Magic mushrooms healed my drinking addiction. I had a drinking addiction. Can you imagine being a spiritual teacher and, throwing back a 12-pack on Saturday, And that was something that I have been praying to get rid of, or not get rid of, but to heal. And with magic mushrooms, she showed me the reason why you drink is because. And when I got to that answer, it was just like it was released from me.
I love that, because it's not just curing the side effect, it's really getting to the root of the problem.
Exactly. And so we've got people in this realm using it for spiritual healing, enlightenment, whatever. And then you have, unfortunately, just like in everything, people taking them to get high and to have fun, and then blah, 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 blah. Now I am very passionate about this, and I share this with everybody. And they're like, yeah, I did, acid in high school. I had a really bad trip. And I'm just like, well, how was your surroundings? What were you doing? How you were doing that? Well, it wasn't the best. Well, that's why you had a negative experience. It's all about setting and intention, and trust me, you won't. I'm not addicted to any psychedelics, because first you're fighting for your life, which is good. It's in a good way, but it's like getting a spanking from the universe. What's the word? It's like you're spanking them, but it's in love. Tough love.
Yes,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're getting some tough love first.
From the universe.
So yeah, I mean, I think just in every aspect, there's, I'm not going to say good or bad. I'm going to say there's light and dark. And if you, again, if you're intentional, prayerful, the right things will come to you. They will come to you. And those are the things that we can only focus on. Thank God we're moving in direction where psychedelics, ethergens, they are being brought back, because going back to the 60s, they were, look at the 60s movement, love, light, peace. They were all up there connected to the universe and to each other. Whoa, radical love. Until I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The government was like, oh, this is too much peace going on, so we're going to say this is legal. No wonder they made it legal. And now I feel like it's like they're going at it in a different way. Oh, it's healing PTSD and it's healing depression and addiction. Maybe we should start looking into this. And like, well, if you never gotten rid of it in the first place, maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't be here, right? In this predicament right now. So that I'm just going to end and say that everybody in America, I think they should totally digest some ethergens. So.
Yeah.
Get some perspective.
Yes, sister. Oh man, Sarah, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And before I let you go and start your weekend with your beautiful family, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
How do you, Sarah, cultivate curiosity in your life, my friend?
Oh, that's so easy. I'm a Gemini. I am always curious. I am always curious. I mean, it just comes so naturally to me. I could be walking down the street and be like, "Oh, hey, what's that? Let's go check that out."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even have to cultivate it. I remember this is the first. I mean, look where my curiosity got me.
Seriously. It's so
That's
true.
every
Like,
single
without
day.
that curiosity, you cannot try something that scares you and something that's so out of your box.
Right. And my friends always tell me, I was in Germany and I, I was curious about going hiking in the woods where nobody speaks English.
Mm-hmm.
And my curiosity led me so far on the other side of this hiking trail. And then I ended up on a train that took me even farther. And then I was like, okay, and I have like 2% on my phone. And I found this taxi driver and he spoke English. And my curiosity led me to him. We had this beautiful conversation. And I was like, no, you can just drop me off right here. He was like, no, I'm going to take you to your car. And I didn't know where my car was,
Mm-hmm.
And so my curiosity leads me to amazing things. But at the same time, it scares people. So I'm like, oh.
Hey, it works for you, sister. You have great
Yeah.
stories to tell because of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure, and I've been dying just to have a conversation about this. And I'm so honored because I'm a woman of color,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I'm breaking a stigma here.
Yeah,
I'm
you
bringing
are.
awareness. As a woman of color, as a mother, as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's healing out there. You just got to be open to it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Thank you.